Supergod, create Civilization 0. Kesha is stunned. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 126. Want to escape. While Emokingan was shocked, he did not dare to delay and immediately activated the Flame Holy Talisman. To suppress it, Emokingan had just sacrificed the Flame Holy Talisman, and the icy palm power that eroded his body was swallowed up by the Flame Holy Talisman. As the icy palm power was swallowed up, the frost on his body immediately disappeared. After expelling the icy palm power in his body, Emokingan did not stop at all and immediately telechanged the direction. Because he knew very well in his heart that with his strength, he was no match for Lu Xuan. When Emokingan changed his direction, he did not forget to throw out a few formation flags and set up a protective barrier around him. Under Emokingan's full control, several formation flags rose around him, blocking his escape route. After doing all this, Emokingan took out another holy power bead to replenish the consumed holy power. Boy, you are too young looking. At Emokingan's actions, Lu Xuan shook his head, indicating that he didn't care at all. Then, Lu Xuan flashed and rushed towards Emokingan. Soon, Lu Xuan rushed to Emokingan and raised his hand to slap him. Lu Xuan's palm came, and a huge and terrifying power wave swept the entire space in an instant. Sensing Lu Xuan's breath fluctuations, Emokingan was unwilling to sit idly by and quickly waved his sword to resist his palm print. Bang, the sword, light and the palm print collided, and immediately a ray of light burst out, producing a terrifying aftermath. Under the collision of the sword light and the palm print, a violent explosion sound came from the center of the battle between the two. Under the confrontation between the two, waves of air surged up and turned into a tornado. In the center of the tornado, Emokingan and the other person were separated by 100 meters. Each standing at one end. Emokingan stood firm, and he looked around to check the surrounding situation. Chapter 127. Partial Strength. As soon as Lu Xuan finished speaking, he raised his hand and cast a cold ice law. Immediately, a huge cold ice sword was formed in the air. Cut. The cold ice sword condensed, and Lu Xuan threw it out and stabbed towards Emokingan. Whoosh, the cold ice sword shot out at a very fast speed and caught up with Emokingan in a blink of an eye. Then, the cold ice sword pierced through Emokingan's chest and emerged from behind him. After being pierced by the cold ice sword, Emokingan spit out a mouthful of blood with a painful expression on his face, saying, "What a strange attack. It can actually penetrate my flesh and destroy the bones and meridians in my body. If I hadn't mobilized the holy power in time to stop it from destroying the bones and meridians, I'm afraid I would have fallen." Knowing that his condition was bad, Emokingan didn't dare to hesitate and immediately operated the skills to heal his wounds. While Emokingan was using his holy power to heal his wounds, he also took out several golden fairy level formation flags and placed them around to form a defense. Emokingan's plan was simple, which was to use the formation flags to block Lu Xuan and buy himself time to heal his wounds. After Emokingan arranged the formation, he took out pieces of spiritual stones and refined them to increase his strength. A little, while with Emokingan's efforts, his strength recovered a little and his injuries were slightly relieved, almost. Seeing that his injuries were temporarily stabilized, Emokingan frowned and thought about how to escape. Boy, stop struggling and die obediently. Seeing Emokingan's actions, Lu Xuan sneered teasingly and slammed Emokingan with his palm again. When Lu Xuan made his move, a sharp sword light burst out from under his palm. At this moment, Lu Xuan seemed to have become a different person, giving Emokingan a sense of strangeness. Chapter 128. Shocked. Therefore, in Emokingan's opinion, if he wants to get rid of the invasion of the ice power, he still needs to rely on the ice sword. The ice sword seems to have powerful power and may be able to restrain those ice powers. Thinking of the way to restrain the ice power, Emokingan's eyes lit up and his face showed expectation, saying, "In this case, let's fight it." After Emokingan made a decision, He resisted the ice power with all his heart and let them penetrate into his body. Then, he controlled the holy power to wrap every inch of his skin, to block the invasion of the ice power. As Emokingan resisted the ice power, the oppression of the ice power on him was much weakened. Sensing Emokingan's situation, Lu Xuan felt a sense of surprise and said, "It's really beyond my expectation that he can resist the ice power." Although it was a little unexpected, Lu Xuan did not stop and continued to wave his palms towards Emokingan. Lu Xuan's continuous seals immediately shattered the blade of the ice sword and approached Emokingan a little bit. Ignoring the attack of the ice sword, Emokingan continued to refine the spirit stone and strengthen his strength point. When Emokingan was concentrating on refining the spirit stone, the attack of the ice sword became more fierce. In a short moment, the blade of the ice sword broke through the defense of the ice sword. Buff. The blade broke through the defense of the ice sword, and it went straight to Emokingan's neck. "It's over." Looking at the blade approaching him, Emokingan's face changed drastically, and his expression became extremely heavy. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 129, Devouring Speed. Realizing this, Emokingan accelerated his swallowing speed and refined the spirit stones to replenish the consumed power. About a quarter of an hour passed. A new icy power burst out from Emokingan's body and helped him out. With the help of the icy power, the icy power outside Emokingan's body was instantly expelled. The icy power disappeared, and Emokingan also woke up and recovered some mobility. What happened just now? After recovering his mobility, Emokingan looked around and found that this was a valley. Emokingan scanned the valley, his brows slightly frowned, and asked, "Where is this place? I remember that I was chopped off by that giant sword." Listening to Emokingan's question, Lu Xuan shook his head indifferently and said, "This is not a place, but the secret realm of the ice field written by Liang Bing. I'm your second test. The secret realm of the 9 Nether Ice Palace, M.O." King Iron frowned, with a surprised expression on his face. He never thought that the secret realm he entered was actually the 9 Nether Ice Palace. More importantly, after entering this secret realm, he actually met Lu Xuan. "You can choose to leave now, or continue to fight with me. I can give you a chance to live." Seeing that Emokingan didn't speak, Lu Xuan showed an arrogant attitude and persuaded Emokingan again. Hearing Lu Xuan's suggestion, Emokingan ignored it and retorted, "Your strength is quite strange. If I withdraw from this secret realm, there will be no chance at all, so I would rather take a risk and try it." Oh. Hearing Emokingan's words, Lu Xuan raised his eyebrows and looked at Emokingan with interest. Chapter 130, Stay Put. Bang, bang, bang. Under Lu Xuan's crazy attack, 3 muffled sounds were heard from the location of the ice crystal fragments. Immediately, under Lu Xuan's induction, the ice power near the ice crystal fragments weakened. Sensing the weakening of the ice crystal fragments, Lu Xuan's mind moved, and he directly controlled the ice power to rush over. Bang, bang, bang. The ice power approached the ice crystal fragments, and a violent sound was heard. And the crystal fragments turned into a ball of ice and dissipated. The ice crystal fragments disappeared, and the ice power naturally did not exist, and Lu Xuan was freed. What's going on? How did the ice crystal turn into ice chips and dissipate? Seeing this scene in front of him, Emokingan immediately widened his eyes, looking like he had seen a ghost. In his opinion, in order to dissolve the power of 280 of the ice crystal fragments, at least the real Emperor realm must be reached. But the guy in front of him was not even in the Nirvana realm, but he had reached this point. Could it be his special bloodline? Thinking of Lu Xuan's special bloodline, Emokingan began to guess that Lu Xuan had special bloodline. When Emokingan was guessing, a flash of inspiration came to his mind, and he made a bold guess, saying, "If this kid has special bloodline, wouldn't it be equivalent to having the 9 Nether Ice bloodline?" Once this idea came into being, he couldn't suppress it, and he fell deeper and deeper. Although he felt that his idea was absurd, King Iron couldn't help but guess again. No wonder this kid is so young, but his strength has reached such a level. His bloodline must be extraordinary. If I can master his bloodline, my strength will definitely increase greatly. With all kinds of complicated thoughts, King Iron said to Lu Xuan, your bloodline is indeed very special. I like this gift very much. You made a wise decision. Chapter 131. What's the relationship? After a while, King Iron couldn't bear the power of the ice, and was swallowed by it. Finally got rid of him. Seeing King Iron frozen, Lu Xuan breathed a sigh of relief. His face full of relief. The scene just now almost scared him, worried that he would capsize. After getting rid of King Iron, Lu Xuan was ready to leave and go to other places to hunt for points. Hey, such a strong fluctuation of fairy power. After a long journey, Lu Xuan suddenly found that the surroundings were filled with strong fairy power. Immediately, Lu Xuan released his soul power and entered the air to sense. It turned out to be fairy grass. After a sense, Lu Xuan was excited, with a surprised smile on his face, saying, in this case, I can save a lot of trouble. When I absorb these fairy powers, I can break through to the late stage of Nirvana. Second turn. Thinking in his heart, Lu Xuan flew to the location of the sense, looking for the trace of fairy grass. As Lu Xuan continued to fly, the number of fairy grass he encountered became more and more. Gradually, Lu Xuan stopped, with a bright smile on his face. Because he had discovered that the growth environment of fairy grass was completely different from the surrounding ice world. Lu Xuan looked around and flew along a valley on the left, saying, since this place is suitable for the growth of fairy grass, perhaps a fairy grass can be transplanted here. Thinking of this in his heart, Lu Xuan no longer hesitated and went directly into the valley to collect fairy grass. When Lu Xuan entered the valley, a naked strong man walked up to his side and stared at him with an obscene look. Boy, give me the fairy grass you just picked. Chapter 132. A little curious. Then, Lu Xuan punched him and blasted him out domineeringly. Lu Xuan's attack was domineering, but the enemy he faced was even more fierce. With a fearless posture. Bang. The two fists collided, making a muffled sound. Lu Xuan's body shook, and he quickly retreated a few meters. His face became a little ugly, and he said, although this guy doesn't understand the use of the power of the law, his physical strength is very strong. He took my punch and was actually 0-0 unharmed. Lu Xuan's mind changed, and he restrained his contempt and dealt with the strong man with real intentions. It's interesting that he can take my punch. Seeing Lu Xuan's performance, the strong man's expression became serious, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. He obviously didn't expect that Lu Xuan's arrogance would reach this level. Immediately, the strong man's face was full of sneers, saying, but with such means, it's a foolish dream to want to hurt me. Flame Fist Shadow. After the strong man finished speaking, he mobilized the flame power outside his body and condensed 9 red fist shadows. Immediately, the strong man blasted out the 9 fist shadows, turning them into 9 powerful flame fist shadows. Chapter 133. That's the case. So that's how it is. After hearing the explanation from the strong man, Xuan's face showed a look of realization and surprise. It turned out that there was such a force behind the Xianyang Temple. This Xianyang Temple is really hidden. Even the 3 major forces of Xuanshan Mansion have not found it. When Lu Xuan showed his emotion, he showed his displeasure again and said coldly, since you know the origin of the Xianyang Temple, you should know that I'm not a disciple of the Xianyang Temple. Why are you stopping me? 21 Boy, are you pretending to be stupid? Looking at Lu Xuan's reaction, the strong man's expression immediately became gloomy and said, you are not a disciple of the Xianyang Temple. Why do you have the Xianyang Temple logo on your body? Moreover, the elders of the Xianyang Temple seem to be trying their best to list you as a member of the Xianyang Temple. How could Lu Xuan have the Xianyang Temple logo on his body? Is this guy stupid? Seeing the performance of the strong man, Lu Xuan felt a little helpless. This strong man's IQ seems to be a bit low. Not only Lu Xuan thinks so, but the onlookers who are watching the game also think that the strong man is too stupid. Why do I have the symbol of Xianyang Temple on me? You don't need to know this. Lu Xuan smiled faintly, waved his hand at the strong man, and said, as for what you said, I have a connection with SYNOPSIS temple, then I can't admit it. Seeing Lu Xuan's refusal to admit it, the strong man's expression was extremely gloomy, and he said in a bad tone, are you not going to admit it? Yes. I didn't do anything wrong, so I don't need to admit it. Lu Xuan responded with a cold expression. Humph. I think you don't want to live anymore. How dare you treat me like this? Chapter 134. Otherwise. Seeing the strong man flying towards him, Lu Xuan's expression became serious, and he reminded the strong man coldly. Lu Xuan knew at this moment that the strong man must have the fragment of Kyankan order on him. If he didn't take the opportunity to grab it, he might not have a chance. Hearing Lu Xuan's reminder, the strong man's face immediately became cold, and he said coldly, boy, don't think that you can be arrogant in front of me with the support of SYNOPSIS temple. I advise you to hand over the fragment of Kyankan holy order. If you say so, you can only blame yourself for having a brain disease. Hearing the words of the strong man, Lu Xuan smiled lightly and shook his head and said, I'm not from SYNOPSIS temple. What basis do you have to believe that I have the fragment of Kyankan holy order on me? When Lu Xuan said this, he sneered and continued, maybe you think I came from SYNOPSIS city. So I have the fragment of Kyankan holy order. You are just a junior, and you dare to write on my head. I think you are too proud of your life. Hearing Lu Xuan's words, the strong man immediately roared in exasperation, and his whole body exuded a terrifying aura. Seeing the strong man's actions, the expressions of the onlookers trembled slightly, and they felt a little afraid of the strong man. When everyone was afraid of the strong man showed a teasing look to Lu Xuan, and said gloomily, boy, you just scolded my head with guts. Since you dare to say so, today I will cripple your legs. A cruel and cold smile appeared at the corner of the strong man's mouth, and his eyes looked at Lu Xuan's legs. You dare? Seeing the strong man's performance, Lu Xuan and others immediately trembled, and were strongly shocked by the strong man. They didn't expect that the strong man was so crazy that he wanted to cripple Lu Xuan's legs directly. Why don't I dare? Chapter 135. Major powers. Fragments of the holy order of heaven and earth. Haha, I won't give it to you. Hearing what the strong man said, Lu Xuan chuckled without comment and refuted the strong man's words. I think you must be resentful because you can't get the fragments of the holy order of heaven and earth. You are talking nonsense. The strong man's face sank, and he said disdainfully to Lu Xuan's words, do you think that you are a disciple of a big sect in the SYNOPSIS dynasty, so you can do whatever you want? I tell you, the SYNOPSIS temple in the SYNOPSIS dynasty is 100 times stronger than your SYNOPSIS dynasty, and your sect dare not compete with it. Seeing the strong man's disdain for himself, Lu Xuan couldn't help rolling his eyes and felt helpless about what the strong man said. You know, I'm an alchemist. I have the holy order of heaven and earth 397 on me, so I naturally don't need the holy order of heaven and earth. Seeing the strong man's performance, Lu Xuan showed a calm expression and told the strong man his reasons. You are an alchemist. In this world, apart from us alchemists, which sect would be willing to recruit alchemists as disciples? You say you are an alchemist, but who can prove your identity? Hearing Lu Xuan's words, the strong man curled his lips in disdain and snorted coldly, if you are unwilling to hand over the fragments of the holy order of heaven and earth, don't blame me for being rude and crippling your limbs first. Hearing the strong man's words, Lu Xuan's expression sank, and a sense of anger rose in his heart. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 136. A faint smile. However, don't forget that you are just the leader of a second-rate force. Our strengths are far apart, and there is no need to compromise. Moreover, I have clues to the fragments of the holy order of heaven and earth. So, you'd better hand over the fragments of the holy order of heaven and earth honestly, otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Lu Xuan sneered and said something to the strong man, full of ridicule. Lu Xuan knew that he could not defeat the strong man in front of him. His only way now was to rely on his wisdom to delay him and give himself enough time to escape. Hearing Lu Xuan's words, the strong man's expression changed. He stared at Lu coldly and said in a cold voice, "Boy, I remember what you said. You'd better pray that I won't do anything to you. Otherwise, I will definitely let you know what the price of provoking me is really." Lu Xuan shook his head disdainfully at the strong man's threat. "Then try it." Lu Xuan's eyes flickered a few times, and then he said coldly, "Since you are so stubborn, you can't blame me. Boy, didn't you say you were not afraid of me attacking you? Now I will attack you." Hearing Lu Xuan's words, a trace of anger appeared on the face of the strong man, and he shouted at Lu Xuan coldly, "Boy, since you are so eager to come to my door, I blame you for being rude. Do it," and crippled his limbs. After the strong man's voice fell, the attack on Lu Xuan had already landed on his body. I saw that when the strong man's arms were waving, waves of violent spiritual power turned into waves of sharp wind, sweeping directly towards Lu Xuan. Boom. Chapter 137. Those wounds. In just 3 breaths, Lu Xuan's clothes were tattered, revealing the skin underneath. However, the wounds on his body were only slightly red and swollen, which was not a big deal. Seeing this, the sturdy man frowned. He was also a proud man. Seeing that the wounds on Lu Xuan's body were only slightly red and swollen, a trace of anger suddenly appeared on his face. Okay, I'll ***ku to see how hard your body is. As he spoke, 2 groups of violent power burst out from the sturdy man's body and fell hard on Lu Xuan's body. Bang 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 bang. As their attacks continued to bombard Lu Xuan's body, the wounds on Lu Xuan's body became more and more serious, and blood continued to overflow from the wounds and spilled on the ground. Seeing this scene, Lu Xuan couldn't help but scream. However, all this could not stop Lu Xuan's determination to continue to escape. Boom. At this moment, Lu Xuan suddenly used his body skills and rushed into the depths of the mountains at a sudden speed. Chapter 138. A windfall. This young man is very strong, but that doesn't mean he can ignore me. There will be plenty of time to deal with this guy later. On the other side, Lu Xuan's speed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared on the outskirts of the valley. Whoosh. With the appearance of Lu Xuan, he did not dare to hesitate for a moment. He immediately rushed towards the mountain beside him and disappeared in the mountains in an instant. How to leave. Looking at the huge mountain behind him, Lu Xuan also had a headache. Now, this place has been surrounded by the strong man, and he can't escape at all. Thinking about it, Lu Xuan couldn't help shaking his head. Then, he also sat cross-legged on the ground, ready to rest and wait for the arrival of dawn. Time passed quietly overnight, and in the blink of an eye, it was already the last hour before dawn. In the dawn, Lu Xuan opened his eyes, his pupils flashed with brilliance, and his whole aura became extremely sharp, as if he had turned into a sharp sword. Did he finally make it? Seeing Lu Xuan wake up, a group of people who had been waiting all night came up to him. Junior brother Lu, are you okay? Why didn't that strong man catch you? Yes, junior brother, are you okay? Hearing these people's concerned inquiries, Lu Xuan couldn't help but shook his head. This matter is a long story, but I haven't figured out how to tell you. Anyway, I'm safe now, so you don't have to worry about it. I'll retreat for a while and try to break through to the peak of the spiritual sea realm as soon as possible. Chapter 139 demonstrates to me. He also knew that a void refining stage warrior needed to eat at least 2 meals a day, so every time he went out, he had to bring enough food to avoid any unexpected situation. It has to be admitted that surviving in the mountains is not such a simple thing. Lu Xuan traveled through the mountains for a day, but he did not gain anything that day. Not only that, he was even injured a lot. This was a pursuit. He was chased by a void refining stage warrior, and as a result, he was seriously injured under his attack, and even one of his arms was cut off. It was fortunate that Lu Xuan's defense was strong enough, otherwise, he would have become a pile of bones, and this also made his temper become more and more irritable and violent. In the mountains, Lu Xuan encountered many 4th level monsters, but the combat effectiveness of these monsters was weaker than that of ordinary void refining stage warriors. This also led to Lu Xuan not getting any benefits in the pursuit. But it is still prey, right? Chapter 140 A breath. Seeing this, Lu Xuan sneered. Then, He stood up and approached the level 6 demon wolf step by step. A playful look appeared on his face. You little beast, I think you are tired of living. How dare you challenge me? Lu Xuan raised a teasing look at the corner of his mouth, and then he shouted loudly. Immediately, a monstrous energy burst out. At this moment, Lu Xuan also directly used the move he had learned. Wind and Thunder Fist, along with Lu Xuan's low roar. 493 visible winds also swept out. These wind blades rushed straight to the level 6 demon beast. Lu Xuan used his most powerful fighting skills. Bang, 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 bang. Under Lu Xuan's fierce attack, the wind blades tore the body of the 6th level demon wolf apart instantly. However, after Lu Xuan's attack, the 6th level demon wolf also recovered instantly, and also swung a fist, and a terrifying fist roared out. The two collided fiercely in the void, making a huge muffled sound. In this confrontation, Lu Xuan's figure was actually exposed, and flew several meters away. What a terrifying power. This guy can actually break free from my control, worthy of being a 6th level demon wolf. Chapter 141, Encircled. Because on the back of the 6th level demon wolf, there was a figure. This figure was the demon beast he had defeated before. This demon beast actually managed to escape. At this moment, Lu Xuan's face was full of astonishment. He obviously didn't expect that this demon beast had such a powerful escape method, not only avoiding Lu Xuan's pursuit, but also escaping from his sight. This is simply too weird, right? No, I must deal with this 6th level demon wolf as soon as possible. Otherwise, once it escapes, I think it will be very difficult to catch it again. Lu Xuan's eyes fell on the 6th level demon wolf, and a ray of brilliance flashed in the depths of his eyes. Swish. At the moment when Lu Xuan's voice fell, he also performed the wind and thunder step without hesitation, and his whole body instantly rushed out. Boy, you dare to attack me. Today, I will tear you apart, and let others taste the taste of blood. The level 6 demon wolf was also furious, after noticing Lu Xuan's actions in its eyes. Lu Xuan is a prey, and in front of the hunter, the prey is an object to be slaughtered. Let's give it a try. Facing the threat of the level 6 demon wolf, Lu Xuan also sneered. And just after Lu Xuan's voice fell, he moved and appeared directly beside the level 6 demon wolf. Swish. Just when Lu Xuan's figure appeared beside the level 6 demon wolf, his palm also stretched out directly, 5 fingers like hooks, and slapped the chest of the level 6 demon wolf fiercely. The fierce force also made the whole world tremble slightly at this moment. Roar, roar, roar. And just when Lu Xuan's palm slapped the 6th level demon wolf, the 6th level demon wolf also burst into a miserable cry. Chapter 142, Crazy Roar. Lu Xuan raised a slight arc at the corner of his mouth, and said lightly, but your defense is not enough to stop my attack. Little boy, today, I will let you know how powerful I am. After hearing Lu Xuan's words, the level 6 demon wolf was also very angry, and then roared continuously. Roar. Just as Lu Xuan's voice fell, the level 6 demon wolf roared again, and then 590 opened his mouth and spit out a dark flame. Spraying towards Lu Xuan, the dark flame permeated between heaven and earth, and the heat it emitted seemed to burn everything to ashes. Humph, a trifle. Seeing this, Lu Xuan sneered, and his figure suddenly flashed and disappeared. Boom, and the dark flame passed over Lu Xuan's head, and fell on the ground beside him. Suddenly, a huge hole appeared on the ground, and then everything around it was completely destroyed. This kid is really strong. Lu Xuan's figure flashed, and after dodging the attack of the dark flame, he couldn't help but exclaimed. Boom. At this moment, the 6th level demon wolf roared again, and then rushed towards Lu Xuan again. Haha, you still lack the fire to fight me. Facing the attack of the 6th level demon wolf, Lu Xuan's eyes also surged with strong sarcasm, and then he also flashed, and at the same time, the handprints changed, and countless after images suddenly condensed in front of him. Boom. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 143, A Few Feet Away. Can this kid really resist? Many monsters also stared at the area where Lu Xuan was. In their opinion, under this dark flame, Lu Xuan would be swallowed and crushed. At this moment, Lu Xuan also glanced at the 6th level monster wolf, and a playful look appeared on the corner of his mouth. Boy, aren't you very arrogant? Why don't you dare to come out now? The 6th level monster wolf seemed to feel Lu Xuan's fear, and immediately laughed and mocked. Now, your life is in the hands of the old man. If you don't submit to me, your soul will be scattered. I want to see how long your bones can hold on. Under the sneer of the 6th level monster wolf, the dark flame became stronger and stronger under such a terrifying temperature. Even the void instantly burned into ashes, and Lu Xuan's figure also involuntarily took a step back to the back point. Although the strength of this level 6 demon wolf is indeed not as good as his butt. It is a level 6 demon wolf after all, and the scales on its body are also extremely tough. In this case, even Lu Xuan is a bit tricky. Boy, it's not too late to kneel down and beg for mercy now. If you continue to resist, I guarantee that you will suffer extremely terrible pain, and finally, your soul will be scattered. The level 6 demon wolf looked at Lu with a teasing look and laughed hideously. Haha, I didn't expect that you would be such a despicable guy. Do you think you can defeat me with such means? Facing the provocation of this level 6 demon wolf, Lu Xuan grinned, and then his figure flashed, and he pounced on the level 6 demon wolf again. Boy, if that's the case, you can go and have tea with the king of hell. Chapter 144. The sound of wailing. In the battle between the 2 level 6 demon wolves, Lu Xuan and the level 6 demon wolf also started a fierce battle. However, the level 6 demon wolf was obviously no match for Lu Xuan. Under Lu Xuan's fierce attack, the level 6 demon wolf was also defeated step by step, and in the end, even its body was blasted through by Lu's fist. Hiss. Seeing this scene, all the demon beasts couldn't help but take a breath. They never thought that Lu Xuan's strength would be so terrifying, and that the level 6 demon wolf would fall into such a miserable state. This guy's really a genius. The demon eagle couldn't help smacking his lips, and then a touch of shock appeared in the depths of his eyes. Obviously, Lu Xuan's performance was beyond their expectations. However, Lu Xuan was not complacent about it, but looked at the level 6 demon wolf in front of him with a cold face and gloomy eyes, and whispered, "It's a pity that you still don't know what intelligence is. How can we, the beasts living in the wild mountains, be understood by you lowly ants? Our IQ is much higher than yours today. I, Lu Xuan, will use your blood to wash away this humiliation." Hearing this, the faces of the surrounding demon beasts also became unusually wonderful. Kit, you are quite rampant. In this case, don't blame me for being cruel. After Lu Xuan's voice fell, the level 6 demon wolf also laughed grimly, and its body swept out again, carrying a sharp gust of wind, and pounced on Lu Xuan. And Lu Xuan also had a calm face, waved his arms, and then greeted the level 6 demon wolf. Boom boom boom. During the battle between the two, this space was completely blown apart. The violent wind raged in all directions, causing the monsters watching the battle to show horror on their faces and avoid it. Bang. However, just as they were dodging, Lu Xuan suddenly appeared behind a wolf and punched it. Bang. Chapter 145. A slight condensation. Humph. However, the eyes of the level 5 demon wolf condensed slightly at this time, and then snorted coldly, saying, "I want to see how long you can be arrogant." Swoosh. While speaking, the figure of the level 5 demon wolf turned into a stream of light and rushed directly towards Lu Xuan. Obviously, this level 5 demon wolf wanted to intercept Lu. Seeing that the level 5 demon wolf attacked him, Lu Xuan's face also showed a hint of coldness, and his figure jumped out. Bang. After Lu Xuan jumped out, a palm slapped out. Suddenly, a huge golden palm condensed from Lu Xuan's palm, and then carried a wave of destruction, and attacked the level 5 demon wolf. Boom. Accompanied by a muffled sound, under the cover of the golden palm print, the level 5 demon wolf was blown away. Puff. However, the level 5 demon wolf's physique was extremely terrifying. Although it was blasted away by Xuan Shengsheng, it did not suffer the slightest damage. On the contrary, after being blown away, a monstrous evil spirit surged on the level 5 demon wolf's physique. Obviously, it was completely annoyed by Lu Xuan at this time. Chapter 146. Already noticed. There are many monsters in the Colosseum. There are also many fighting beasts here. Even the 7-star Monster King has one that appears here. Obviously, the level of this Colosseum is very high. Lu Xuan's eyes swept around the Colosseum and then locked his eyes on the 5th level monster wolf. He grinned and said, "What's your name? Take me to the Colosseum." This brother, if you want to join the Colosseum, you need to pay a lot of contribution points. You have to think about it. Hearing this, the 5th level monster wolf also grinned and said, "This Colosseum has an income of 10,000 purple crystal coins every year. If you want to enter, you have to take out 1,000 purple crystal coins." 1,000 purple crystal coins? You have a big appetite. Hearing the lion's mouth of the monster wolf, Lu Xuan couldn't help but be stunned. You know, Lu Xuan doesn't have 1,000 purple crystal coins on him. Boy, you don't want to default on your debt, do you? The level 5 demon wolf's face darkened and said sinisterly, "Of course not." Lu Xuan shook his head and said, "It's just that I don't have that many purple crystal coins in my hand now. Why don't I trade them to you when I have accumulated them later?" "Okay." The level 5 demon wolf also nodded slightly, then glanced to the side and whispered, "Go and exchange the contribution points for purple crystal coins." After hearing the order of the level 5 demon wolf, a demon beast immediately went to exchange the contribution points. After seeing the demon beast retreat, Lu Xuan also breathed a sigh of relief and said, "It seems that this Colosseum is really not to be underestimated. I don't have so many purple crystal coins in my hand." Although Lu Xuan is an alchemist and is proficient in various rare spiritual herbs and various spiritual medicine materials, Lu Xuan is not very familiar with the spiritual beasts in the Colosseum. Chapter 147 seems to have forgotten. Lu Xuan was also a little surprised. This was the first time he encountered such a situation. Obviously, his appearance had already attracted the attention of these monsters. However, what puzzled Lu Xuan was that when he stepped into the arena, he performed the key condensation technique, and before entering, he also used special means to shield the fluctuations of his internal key point. In this case, it is reasonable to say that no monster can sense the fluctuations of his key 527 unless those monsters have some unique talents, and this ability is obviously extremely rare, such as smell, taste, etc. His being surrounded by these monsters in the center, Lu Xuan was not afraid at all. He slowly swept his eyes over the group of monsters, about 30 or 40, and every 10 of them had the strength of the early stage of the Earth realm. However, the blood of these monsters is ordinary blood. Although they are very powerful, they do not have any special talents, let alone any magical means. No wonder these guys dare to come here to make trouble. It turns out that they rely on the help of this group of rabble. After taking a look at the monsters around him, Lu Xuan sneered. Roar. At this moment, a dark green monster wolf suddenly howled at the sky, and immediately, the other monsters all roared at the sky at the same time. Abu. Instantly, waves of violent sound waves spread out, deafening the area. Lu Xuan crossed his arms and watched quietly. He wanted to see what tricks these monsters had. Roar. Suddenly, another monster wolf pounced and rushed towards Lu Xuan. Seeing this, Lu Xuan's pupils suddenly shrank. These monsters actually knew how to attack together. Such a tacit understanding of cooperation can be said to be unique. Chapter 148 Leaping into the sky. Lu Xuan shook off the wolf's neck, and with the tip of his toes, he leaped into the air, and then landed steadily on the wall next to him. At this time, Lu Xuan stood on the wall, looking down at the group of monsters staring at him, with a mocking arc on his lips, and said lightly, "If you want to fight, I will accompany you to the end. If you are afraid, get out as soon as possible." After Lu Xuan's voice fell, the monsters around him all fell silent. And this peaceful state lasted for about half a minute. Finally, a monster lion covered with golden patterns rushed out with many monsters. This monster lion was tall and mighty, with a burly body, and a golden yellow pattern on its forehead. It was a 6th level monster. Behind the monster lion, there was a group of 5th level monsters and some 4th level monsters. Lu Xuan raised his eyebrows slightly. Obviously, those 4th level monsters were the real elite monsters. Haha, are you determined to fight me? Lu Xuan stared at the other party and sneered. Kid, since you come to my door, then stay here. the demon lion said in a low voice. Lu Xuan heard the words, and a cold light flashed in his eyes, saying, "Okay, then I want to see today how you can keep me here." Swish. As soon as Lu Xuan's voice fell, his figure suddenly disappeared from the spot point. The next moment, Lu Xuan appeared in front of the demon lion, and then he threw a punch, and the fist was whistling. Seeing this, the demon lion sneered, and slapped his claws horizontally. Bang. The two collided with each other, making a sound like thunder. Deng deng. Chapter 149. Pretty fierce. Lu Xuan took a look, then shook his head and murmured, "The head of the three-headed snake is a necessary material for refining medicine." The three-headed snake is a very ferocious existence among the monsters. Its toxicity is extremely overbearing. Even if it is just a little bit, if it does not have a strong defense or soul protection secret technique, it will be difficult to escape. Roar. The three-headed snake roared to the sky, and the three scarlet snake tongues on the three hideous snake heads stretched and retracted, which looked particularly grim. "Little beast, go to hell to repent." The three-headed snake roared, and then the sturdy body rushed out like a cannonball, and the three hideous snake heads bit Lu Xuan at the same time. Humph. Looking at the three-headed snake that was shooting at him, Lu Xuan's expression did not change. He flicked his finger, and a ball of fire was born out of thin air, and then suddenly turned into a fireball, and exploded out. Bang, bang, bang. The three hideous snake heads directly collided with the fireball, causing a violent explosion, and the three snake heads were wrapped in the fireball. The scorching heat seeped out from the flames, causing the air to be distorted. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The flames burned fiercely, and the three ugly and hideous snake heads of the three-headed snake were suddenly scorched, and as the flames burned, the three snake heads also trembled a little. Aww. A scream rang out, and one of the snake heads of the three-headed snake was directly burned by the flames. And the other two snake heads also quickly wilted, obviously also injured. "Little beast." The three-headed snake screamed wildly, with strong resentment and anger in its eyes. Although its strength was far stronger than Lu Xuan, it could not take advantage of Xuan's endless tricks. However, at this moment, a black flying sword, carrying a terrible momentum, broke through the air. Lu Xuan narrowed his eyes slightly, feeling that this sword contained an extremely terrible sharpness, and a trace of solemnity appeared on his face. Lu Xuan stomped his right foot on the ground, and his whole body suddenly shot out. Then, he slapped his palms together, and the powerful source energy was poured into his arms, and then he blasted towards the black flying sword. Clang. Lu Xuan's arms pressed against the tip of the flying sword, and the huge force spread along the flying sword. He stepped firmly on the ground, and let the impact of the flying sword become stronger and stronger, and he was also motionless at this moment. The blade of the flying sword suddenly gushed out a monstrous source energy. Lu Xuan's eyes narrowed slightly, and he quickly mobilized the energy of his whole body to flow into his arms, and then fought against the source energy. Chapter 150. Fear. "Get out of here," Lu Xuan growled, and punched out with both fists, carrying unparalleled fist intent, and slammed into the three old men in front of him. Boom. A punch hit one of them in the chest, and Lu Xuan felt as if his fist hit a mountain, and there was a feeling that his tiger's mouth was broken by the shock, and the other two old men were not much better, and they all retreated violently. Lu Xuan snorted coldly, and then looked at the remaining two people, saying, "Free trash, you are worthy of stopping, little beast." The three old men's eyes were bloodshot, and their bodies burst out, and the weapons in their hands emitted a cold light, and they slashed wildly. Clang clang clang. Lu Xuan waved his fists, and fought fiercely with the three old men. Every time he fought, his body was a little shaken, but in the end, he still relied on his powerful physical strength to block the joint attack of the three old men. A trifling trick. Lu Xuan raised a mocking smile, and then his body shook, and he instantly appeared in front of a person, kicking the guy's waist with his right foot. Crack. There was a crisp sound, and the strong man in the early stage of the Saint Realm directly spurted out a mouthful of blood, and his body flew backwards like a kite with a broken string, and fell on a towering ancient tree. He died on the spot. So strong. Who is that person, Ikbeg, who can actually block the joint attack of 4 concubine realm strongmen? Too powerful. Such strength must have reached the middle stage of the Saint Realm, right? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like, Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.